Welcome back, viewers. Dear viewers, Retaliation Realm presents a new story. Well, I sighed. I'm finally free from that burden. Starting today, my parents were moving in with me. Or rather, their memory was. You see, when my parents passed away, my husband Adam demolished our family home. Standing in front of its empty lot, he blurted out, "Hurry up and bring the inheritance to our place." I stood there in shock. "What are you talking about? Have you lost your mind?" At his words, I couldn't help but laugh. I realized what this was all about. "Why are you laughing? Don't you understand?" Adam and my in-laws looked at me, puzzled. That's when I told them the truth. My name is Amaya Smith. I was born the eldest daughter of ordinary office worker parents. I have one brother, and we were a very normal family. I married Adam when I was 30, and we had 2 kids. Balancing work and parenting, I suddenly found myself at 52. My son, Jeremy, and daughter, Lily, had grown up to be adults, each living independently and starting their careers. Now was the time to relax with my husband. It was an ordinary life, but I was happy. I thought I would continue to age like this, but my simple life changed one winter day. My father was in a car accident and suddenly passed away. He was only 68 at the time. Our whole family was overwhelmed with grief, especially my mother, who was so depressed she couldn't eat. "Mom, I know it's hard, but you have to eat," I told her repeatedly. "I know, but I just don't have the appetite. It feels like there's something stuck in my chest," she replied. My brother and I thought she was just emotionally distressed and watched her for a while. However, she rapidly lost weight in just 3 weeks. Worried, I took her to the hospital. The diagnosis from the doctor was shocking. Cancer. The cancer was advanced, and surgery wasn't an option. She had about a year left to live. I hadn't had the chance to take care of my parents yet. When I thought I had lost my father, now my mother was facing this illness. I was even more devastated than when my father passed, but I couldn't grieve forever. My brother lived far away and couldn't help, so it was up to me to care for my mother. I told Adam that I wanted to live with my mother. I couldn't leave her alone, both emotionally and physically, during her illness. Adam's reaction surprised me. "We just finished dealing with your dad's funeral, and now I have to be dragged into more of your family's issues," he said with a sigh, clearly annoyed. "You don't have to say it like that. Can't you just drive her to the hospital and back? Do we have to live with her?" I asked. "I think she might feel lonely. If it's not okay, maybe I can just live at my family home for a while," I suggested. Adam became indignant. "And who's going to take care of my meals while you're gone?" "I'll come and cook, of course." "What about cleaning? Who's going to do the laundry?" he demanded. I fell silent. I intended to do what I could, but I couldn't do everything as before. Being confronted with this reality hurt. If someone said I was being selfish for wanting to care for my mother, I wouldn't be able to argue back. I'm sure my mother, being considerate, would say everything is fine as it is, but I wanted to do something for my parents. "Fine, but I'm not helping with anything, you hear?" Adam grudgingly said to my silence. His attitude was arrogant, but he had ultimately agreed. "I'm sorry, and thank you," I said. Although I thought he was being awful, he had agreed to my wish. I suppressed my desire to argue back and thanked him. Despite the troubles, Adam and I started living with my mother at my family home. We had originally been living in a house provided by Adam's employer. Adam was an only child, and since his father wanted us to live together, we didn't plan on buying our own home. We were going to eventually move in with Adam's parents. Living in the company housing was more convenient for work, and the rent was only about $1,000 a month, so it wasn't a big burden. But now that we've moved to my family home, we don't have to pay for that anymore, and we have more space. I think living together wasn't all bad for Adam. True to his word, Adam didn't help with anything, but I'm glad I could live with my mother. She seemed energetic, but she often felt weak and spent a lot of time lying down during the day. I prepared her meals, fed her, and managed her medication. It would have been impossible for her to do all that alone. "I'm sorry, Amaya. Thank you. It's a big help that you're here with me," I should thank Adam, too, my mother said, expressing her gratitude many times. She was unaware of the harsh words Adam had said about living together, so she was grateful to him too. One evening, after my mother had gone to bed and Adam returned home, I brought up the subject of my mother's treatment while serving dinner. Adam glared at me and said, "I don't know what you want me to say. I told you I'm not helping with anything." Refusing even to listen. I needed someone to vent to, someone to consult. All I wanted was for Adam to listen. Even after 2 months, and 3 months, Adam's attitude didn't change. He constantly complained about living together, acting as if he was doing a great favor, and his behavior became more obnoxious day by day. But I couldn't say anything against it. Between worrying about my mother and being considerate of Adam, I was becoming more stressed. Around the time of the 2-year prognosis, my mother's condition worsened rapidly, and she was hospitalized. 5 days later, she passed away. Although I had prepared myself mentally, I was devastated. My brother's family and my children came right away and helped a lot, but in times like this, you want your spouse by your side. However, Adam was laughing and chatting with his parents in a corner, not helping with the funeral preparations at all. My brother had taken the lead role in the preparations, and somehow we got everything ready for the funeral. But Adam, who should have been sitting in the family section, was at the very back of the relative section. "Adam, I want you to sit in the family section," I said. He replied, "No, I'm fine here. I'm not a blood relative after all." "But you're my husband," I said. Then his mother chimed in, "He's your husband, but he's not your mother's son. Adam is our son, so he's an outsider, you know. Amaya should sit in the family section." Hearing this from my in-laws was painful. I was left speechless. Where I come from, it's common for sons-in-law to sit in the family section at funerals, though this might vary by area. With Adam not in the family section, distant relatives started whispering, wondering if we had divorced. It's one thing for people to gossip, but all this could have been avoided if Adam had just sat there. Feeling a bit upset that Adam wasn't by my side, we still managed to see my mother off peacefully. After the funeral, my brother's family, my children, Adam, and his parents returned to my family home. "Thank you for coming, especially at such a busy time," I said to my in-laws, offering them some tea. They laughed and replied, "Really, it's something. First, your father, now your mother. These funeral expenses are a burden for us too, but at least that's the end of it." I was stunned by their words. What do they mean by that? I couldn't believe they would say such a thing. I forced a smile and excused myself. Then I overheard Adam talking with his parents. "It must have been tough for you, Adam, living with outsiders." "Yeah, dealing with Amaya's whims was a pain. A husband shouldn't just follow his wife's demands. If you don't like something, you have every right to refuse," Adam said. I clenched my fists. Their voices, laughing and chatting, were unbearable. But this wasn't new. Adam's parents had always been insensitive and rude. When Adam and I got married, his mother said, "Couldn't you find someone more attractive? I can't expect much for grandchildren." His father joked, "They say beauty gets boring after 3 days. With Amaya, you won't get bored." And Adam just laughed. Reflecting, neither Adam nor his parents had said a single comforting word to me either at my father's funeral or after my mother's passing. Instead, they ridiculed me. I had felt sorry for imposing on Adam, but now I questioned his behavior as a person. I had been too concerned about Adam while just wanting to do right by my mother. I realized I shouldn't have felt so guilty towards Adam, especially since he wasn't supportive. Well, I simmered in anger. Adam and his parents continued to laugh and chat in another room. If my brother's family and my kids had heard them, they would have been upset, but fortunately, they were in the kitchen. I was relieved to be the only one who heard Adam and his parents' conversation. Then my mother-in-law spoke up. "Amaya," she called. "Yes," I replied, startled. "Can I have this?" she asked, holding my mother's purse. Confused, I stammered, "Oh well, your mother won't be needing it anymore, right?" Adam suggested I take it home. "Maybe I'll just keep it," she said, holding up the purse and inspecting it. I couldn't believe her audacity, especially right after the funeral. I took the purse from her and said firmly, "No, you can't." Her expression changed, not because of the purse, but because I, her daughter-in-law, stood up to her. Yet, I stood my ground. "We're not ready to sort through my mother's belongings yet. We'll distribute her keepsakes among the family later." My mother-in-law turned red with anger. "What do you mean? Are you saying I'm an outsider? You said earlier at the funeral that even Adam was an outsider to my mother. How come Adam is an outsider, but your family isn't?" I retorted. Hearing this, Adam and his father also turned red. "What are you saying? Apologize to Mom. How disrespectful of a daughter-in-law to talk like that." Their commotion drew everyone from the other room. I didn't expect to be called an outsider after all the effort we put into attending the funeral. "Let's go home, Dad," my mother-in-law shouted at me in front of everyone and stormed out of our house. For some reason, even Adam was angry and left with his parents. "What happened? Did you call your mother-in-law an outsider?" everyone asked me. Having heard only her side, taken out of context, it might have seemed like I was the one being harsh. But I explained the situation to everyone, and not a single person blamed me. Grandpa and Grandma should be more considerate of other people's feelings. That's just how Dad, Grandma, and Grandpa have always been. My children sided with me, but I still couldn't forgive those three. Adam hadn't come home for a while since that day, and I hadn't contacted him either. I didn't think I should be the one to apologize, and I wasn't sure if I could forgive him even if he did. But I knew things couldn't stay this way forever. Then one day, Adam came back. "Welcome home," I greeted him, suppressing the anger that flared up at the sight of him. "It's been tough, huh?" His gruff words were an attempt at showing concern, and I was taken aback. "Take the kids and go on a trip. It'll be a good change of scenery for you," he said, handing me travel vouchers. I was speechless. Instead, tears started to string down my face. It might have been the kids' idea, but I was touched that Adam went along with it. I immediately contacted the kids to plan the trip. "Really? Dad suggested this." "It's surprising, isn't it?" The kids were astonished by my proposal. It seemed like it was a gift from Adam. "I wonder if Dad feels bad about what happened," I said, laughing. I gratefully accepted the travel vouchers from Adam. "I'll be off then." "Yeah, take your time. Stay with the kids at their places, too." "Why not?" "Really? I can't be away that long. Don't worry about me. I'll relax at my parents'. Just enjoy yourself." With that, Adam sent me off. Lily was happy to have me visit, so before the spa trip, I stopped by her place, and then Jeremy's. I hadn't been able to visit them while caring for my mother, so I helped out by cooking and freezing meals for them. "Mom, you should relax, but thanks." "This helps," they both said, delighted to have my cooking at home. This opportunity was all thanks to Adam's suggestion. Then came the eagerly awaited spa trip. I spent a relaxing time at the hot springs with my children. The weariness from caregiving and the sorrow of losing my parents seemed to have healed quite a bit. I was away for almost a week, but both my kids returned to their homes with bright smiles. That was fun. "We should thank Dad for once." "True, just this once. But I wonder if he's up to something," Lily joked. "Don't say that. Dad thought about us in his way," I laughed. When I returned home, planning to share the memories with Adam and start our life anew as a couple, I was speechless. "What? The house is?" I looked around in disbelief. Despite recognizing the location, the family home that should have been there was gone. Then, out of nowhere, Adam appeared, followed by his parents. They were grinning at me, standing there dumbfounded. "Adam, what's going on?" I asked, trying to stay calm. With the same sickening smile, Adam said, "Finally, I'm rid of that baggage. Starting today, my parents are moving in with me at my house." "What are you talking about?" I replied, trying to stay calm. "Have you lost your mind? Your family home has been demolished. Bring the inheritance to our place quickly. Whatever you inherited, it's Adam's now." I realized then that the disappearance of the house was Adam's doing, and it was all for the inheritance. Such betrayal. After thinking about the future on my way home, I was filled with indescribable sadness and anger. But demolishing the house won't go Adam's way. I won't let it. I burst into laughter at the sight of their smirking faces. My laughter baffled Adam and his father. Why are you laughing? What a weird woman. Has she gone crazy? My mother-in-law said, looking at me as if I were eerie. Facing the three of them, I spoke up, don't you guys know what you're talking about? I haven't inherited a single penny, so there's no inheritance. After saying that, I burst into laughter again. They had mistakenly thought they'd become rich from the inheritance. Their wild imaginations and actions had me in uncontrollable laughter. What do you mean? Explain yourself. Adam demanded, but I kept my mouth shut. I felt no need to enlighten them. Before that, I'm not going to live with strangers. If you want to live together, go ahead alone. Ignoring Adam's question and rejecting his suggestion made my mother-in-law furious. You helped with your parents' housework, but you can't do ours? You're aware of the circumstances, right? I agreed to live together, didn't I? She yelled. I told you I didn't want to live together. Have you forgotten? You chose to live together to avoid housework. I refuted them one after another. Also, demolishing the family home like that. There are things you just shouldn't do. I yelled at them and then left. Behind me, Adam's voice called out, where are you going? But I didn't look back. Right now, I needed to find a place to sleep for the night, and I didn't want to see Adam's face. I immediately consulted a lawyer. Demolishing a house couldn't be that easy. The house was still in my mother's name. As I wondered which company had done it, an unbelievable truth came to light. Adam and his father had demolished it themselves. His father, who worked in demolition, enlisted the help of acquaintances and even rented heavy machinery. The planning was meticulous. Moreover, they even gave me travel vouchers to get rid of me. Tears welled up in my eyes at the realization of being deceived. The frustration was unbearable. Is there any way to punish all three of them? I tearfully explained my situation. The lawyer smiled at me kindly. Adam unlawfully demolished the house in your mother's name. He could be charged with property destruction and held liable for damages. Let's start by demanding a formal apology from Adam and his parents. I nodded in agreement, and the lawyer quickly took the necessary actions. A few days later, Adam called me, furious about the legal notice he received. What's with this certified letter? He yelled. Oh, you got it? You destroyed my precious house, so of course you have to compensate, I replied. Compensate? We said we were moving to my parents' place. I demolished a house that nobody was going to live in. You should be thanking me, not asking for compensation. Now bring the inheritance and come back home, he said arrogantly. Thank you for demolishing my house. Don't make me laugh. And what inheritance? It's not even settled yet. I shouted back. Adam was silent, seemingly taken aback by my anger, which I rarely displayed. The reason I laughed when the house was demolished was exactly this. I had a whole year with my mother. It was obvious that we would discuss matters of inheritance, so I told my brother I didn't want anything and to give it all to him. As a result, he inherited all the cash and stocks. He insisted that I should have the house since he lived far away and couldn't manage it. If I wasn't going to live there, it could be rented out. That was the plan. Either you and your father restore the house to its original state or pay the amount specified in the letter. I was considering settling this amicably. Well, fine, if you can't pay, I'll file a police report and sue you, I declared. I'm sorry. I didn't think you'd get so angry, Adam said, starting to make excuses. Of course I'm angry. What do you expect? I snapped. Adam seemed to think that if my family home was gone, he wouldn't have to live with his parents. His father had always wanted to live together and had a fondness for Jeremy. Adam had refused to live together before, citing difficult commutes, but his parents thought I was the one against it. So he convinced them by demolishing my house and making it seem like I'd move in with them with the inheritance. But I couldn't forgive him after hearing such a thing. Please, give me a break. I didn't mean any harm. Dad's sorry too. If he's truly sorry, then agree to the settlement, I said and hung up the phone. Adam kept calling and sending messages, apologizing. If you're sorry, just transfer the money. I pushed him away. I knew my childhood home couldn't be restored, but this was the only way I could deal with my unbearable feelings. I stayed at Lily's place. My brother's family and my children knew about the situation. Although my brother must have been angry about our house being demolished without his consent, he said, I won't interfere, but I'll help in any way I can. Do what you think is best, Amaya. Everyone condemned Adam's actions and supported me. A month passed without any compensation or payment from Adam. During that time, there was no contact with him. I couldn't stay with Lily forever. I wanted to get the money as soon as possible to at least establish a living foundation. Contrary to my wishes, something unbelievable happened. It was revealed by Lily. This apron looks a lot like Grandma's, she said, showing me her smartphone screen. I was surprised when I saw it. It was a listing on a flea market app. The apron Lily mentioned, similar to my mother's, was a unique one I had made for her. What? This is Grandma's apron. I made it, so I'm sure, I said. Lily quickly checked other listings. The sellers seemed to have recently joined the app with no transactions or reviews yet. There were nearly 50 items listed, and to my horror, all of them belonged to my mother. I immediately realized it was Adam. He was the only one who could have taken my mother's belongings after demolishing the house. I called Adam right away. What's this about the app? I asked. App? Adam responded, sounding annoyed. Don't play dumb. You're selling Mom's things without permission, aren't you? Cancel those listings right now. I demanded. Adam, sounding panicked, replied, What? No, it wasn't me. Who else would do such a thing? I'm coming over right now to get everything back, I said and hung up. Then I immediately headed to Adam's parents' house with Lily. Where are Mom's things? I demanded as soon as we arrived, confronting Adam at the door. I don't know anything about it, he stuttered. Tell the truth, Dad. Lily joined me in pressuring Adam. He seemed flustered. Adam's parents noticed our presence and came out. Oh, Lily, you're here, Adam's mom greeted, smiling at the sight of her granddaughter. Angry, Lily said, Grandma, tell Dad to tell the truth. The truth. Grandma's belongings that passed away recently. Dad seems to be selling them. At Lily's words, Adam's mom burst into laughter. Adam, with a troubled look, kept repeating, It wasn't me. Then his mother loudly exclaimed, Adam is selling them? That's impossible. I am the one selling them. I felt my blood run cold. Adam probably knew about it. With a look that almost said, This is bad, he turned to his mother. Despite Lily's shock, his mother cheerfully continued, What? It's a lot of work, you know. I have to pack everything carefully and make sure the photos look good. She seemed oblivious to the fact that she was selling stolen goods, chatting happily about the app. I struggled to restrain myself from lunging at her. Cancel the listings. Those aren't yours to sell. Lily, red with anger and tears in her eyes, pleaded with her grandmother. However, Adam's mother seemed displeased. What's the big deal? I finally found a hobby I enjoy. Using the things I can and selling the rest for a little pocket money. It's good for preventing dementia. I'm the only grandma left, so Lily wants me to stay healthy and live long, right? She said nonchalantly. Pleading with her had no effect. There was no sign of remorse. If talking won't help, then action is the only option. Lily, let's go. But, it's okay? Let's go. I insisted, pulling Lily out of the house and heading straight to the police station. I wasn't planning to file a report for the demolition of the house, but the theft was a different story. When I explained to the police that my mother's belongings were being stolen and sold, they acted immediately, and Adam's mother's account on the flea market app was suspended. The items wouldn't be sold anymore. I called Adam on the way back from the station. I had your mother's account stopped. You knew about it, right? You're complicit. No. I filed a police report about this. Please cooperate with the investigation. Adam became frantic. What? We're family, right? Withdraw it, please. Family? You still haven't paid any compensation for the house or alimony, and there's no sign of remorse. Faced with my shouting, Adam was taken aback. Despite everything, I still had feelings for Adam, having lived with him for so long. Sighing, I said, I'll wait for the money, but I won't forgive the theft. Return everything. And Adam, your father looked quite unwell. Has he seen a doctor? What? I'm not a monster, so just passing on that message, I said and hung up. Adam's father, whom I had just seen, was alarmingly thin and hadn't spoken much. His complexion was more than just pale. It was unnaturally dark. His ill health was obvious, but that family probably hadn't noticed. His wife was nonchalantly selling stolen items, and Adam only acted tough with me. They lacked any real concern for others. The next day, I received a call from Adam's father. Expecting it to be a thank you call, I answered and got the complete opposite reaction. What do you mean by treating me like a sick person? Planning to dump me in a hospital to get rid of the hassle? I need to protect Adam and my wife from you. I'm not going to any hospital, he scolded. It was shocking to be reprimanded when I was just concerned. Sorry for overstepping. I was just worried. Humph. I'm not frail or short-lived like your parents. Don't make a fool of me, he snapped. I was infuriated by his words. But a few days later, he felt unwell enough to visit the hospital. The diagnosis was terminal cancer. Adam called me in a panic. Dad's got terminal cancer. What am I going to do? I just snorted. I don't know. What did he say when I suggested going to the hospital? He said, I'm not frail or short-lived like your parents, so deal with it yourself. How can you be so heartless, Amaya? I never thought you'd be such a person. Did you ever say a single warm word when my mother was sick? Reflect on your actions. I said and hung up. As expected, Adam's father passed away soon after. As a human being, I didn't want to harbor negative feelings towards the deceased, but recalling everything that had been done and said, I couldn't shed a tear. After his funeral, his will was found. Despite all this talk of not being short-lived, he had made thorough preparations. The house goes to Jeremy. The rest of the estate is to be divided between my wife and eldest son. I was surprised to see Jeremy's name. Adam's father had always favored him, wanting to live with him. He must have wanted Jeremy to have the house even after his death. It was news for Jeremy. Renounce the inheritance. You don't need that house, do you? I told Jeremy, but he was happy to receive it. Inheriting the house was more of a burden than a benefit due to inheritance tax, but if he was pleased, I had no right to say anything. Following the will, Jeremy inherited the house. His grandmother was happy and paid the inheritance tax. He's our successor after all, she said. Well, that's not wrong. I felt a bit sad as if Jeremy had been taken from me. Then something unbelievable happened next. Come over to our house. Adam's call prompted me to head straight to his parents' house. When I arrived, I saw Adam's mother and Adam himself standing in front of their house, stunned, just like I once had been. The site was filled with heavy machinery and trucks labeled with demolition company names. Workers were tearing down their houses right before our eyes. What's going on? It's my house. I can do what I want with it, Jeremy said, appearing from somewhere, looking satisfied as he watched the demolition. Jeremy, what are you doing? Stop this right now. Adam shouted. Stopping it now won't make it livable anyway, Jeremy replied. What have you done? Adam's mother and Adam were begging Jeremy, but Jeremy just laughed. Did you forget what Grandpa and Dad did to Mom? Grandma, you were awful to Mom, too, right? Did you apologize? Jeremy's smile turned into a sharp glare at Adam's mother and Adam. They fell to their knees as the heavy machinery continued to noisily dismantle their house. I finally felt relieved, seeing the scene. Later, Adam finally paid the damages and compensation from the inherited assets. The stolen items that Adam's mother took from my mother were retrieved by Jeremy and safely returned to me. You always have me and Lily, Jeremy said, and I finally shed tears of relief. Adam's mother and Adam, having lost their house and left with no money, were now living in a company house. Adam and I had moved out of the company house, but now Adam and his mother had to return, becoming the subject of rumors. I explained the whole truth to Adam's colleague's wife, who we were on good terms with. Adam and his mother will likely have a hard life in the company housing, but it's their own doing. After Adam's retirement, they'll be forced to save up for a new place to live. I sometimes think about asking my friend how Adam and his mother are living now, just to have something to talk about. After that, I continued to stay at Lily's house. Then Jeremy got engaged to be married. He was planning to build a house. The land of the former family home sold for a decent amount, and I was glad to see that even that house served a purpose. "Mom, come live with us," Jeremy offered. His fiancée welcomed me warmly. Since I couldn't keep relying on Lily, who lived alone indefinitely, I decided to take Jeremy up on his offer. I am thinking of living happily with my new family, determined not to become a mother-in-law like my own mother-in-law. Thank you for being with us and listening until the end. If you found it interesting, please subscribe, give us a like, and leave your comments. We'll see you on the Retaliation Realm channel.